Chapter 61. Did you find it difficult to sleep alone? You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 61. Did you find it difficult to sleep alone? Mu Chen turned around and quickly walked to the French windows, pulling open the curtains. Seeing the woman sitting cross-legged on the floor with her laptop, his gaze froze. Luo Chenxi was dressed like a housewife. Her long, silky hair was casually tied behind her head with a pencil, and a few strands of hair fell messily on her forehead. She was wearing a large T-dot shirt that was loosely draped over her body. The collar was wide open, and she had accidentally pulled it to the side, revealing her exquisite collarbones and one of her fair shoulders. She was only wearing a pair of jeans and her long legs were exposed to the air. Mu Chen's gaze wandered around her long legs. His voice was slightly hoarse. Luo Chenxin, why are you hiding here? It was only then that Luo Chenxi snapped out of her trance. She looked up at the man in front of her in shock. You. Mu Chen. When did you come back? You're actually naked. Mu Chen did not turn on the lights when he entered. Under the dim moonlight, Mu Chen's handsome facial features were hidden in the shadows, but the muscles on his upper body appeared clearer and smoother, full of pure masculinity and strength. Luo Chenxi could not help but look down at his strong abs. She swallowed her saliva. It was bad enough that this man was so good-looking, but his body was so perfect too. Right at this moment, Mu Chen turned on the ceiling light and the room lit up. Luo Chenxi came back to her senses and realized that her gaze was too obvious. She quickly turned around. Mu Chen snorted. Why? Are you playing hard to get now? Didn't you look at me like that just to seduce me? Luo Chenxi suddenly looked up and widened her eyes. Are you a narcissist? You always think that I'm seducing you. You even came in naked. Mu Chen looked at her with disdain. It's already so late. I went into my bedroom to take a shower. Don't I need to take off my clothes? You hid on the balcony alone and didn't turn on the lights. Tell me, were you waiting to peep at me on purpose? Why? Did I sleep in the study room yesterday and make it difficult for you to sleep? Did you specially wait for me to come back? Hearing such narcissistic words, Luo Chenxi almost vomited blood. Who's having trouble sleeping alone? She slept really well yesterday. Except. Well, I had a colorful dream, however, that did not mean that she would miss him. Let alone seduce him. Mu Chen. Narcissism is an illness. You really should go see a psychologist. I was on the balcony because the sunlight was the best this morning. I was too focused on drawing the design drafts and did not realize it was dark, so I did not turn on the lights, Luo Chenxi said angrily. Mu Chen snorted. Is that so? Then why did you look at me with such lust just now? Me? Looking at you with lust? You're clearly overthinking. Mu Chen stared at the little woman's flushed face, his gaze deepening as he walked towards her. Suddenly, he felt as if he had stepped on something. Looking down, it was a ball of paper. What is this? Mu Chen raised his eyebrows and picked up the paper. Luo Chenxi puffed up her cheeks and glared at him. These are all sketches that I made. I told you that I spent the whole day drawing designs here, but you didn't believe me. Tisk, woman, you said you didn't seduce me on purpose. Then what is this? Mu Chen suddenly spoke. He held the newly opened draft paper in his hand and turned the side of the drawing toward Luo Chenxi. Didn't I tell you? It's my design draft. Halfway through her sentence, she suddenly saw the picture on the paper, and the rest of her words were stuck in her throat. Damn, why did she take a closer look? Why did the person she casually drew look so much like Mu Chen? Chapter 62. Looks like you've been secretly in love with me for a long time. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 62. Looks like you've been secretly in love with me for a long time. Mu Yichen watched as the little woman's cheeks gradually turned red. The depression that had been lingering in his chest since last night had finally dissipated. He knew that this little woman could not leave him. She would insist on marrying him. He was so calm and carefree last night. He must have been pretending. It seems that you've been secretly in love with me for a long time. Mu Yichen tried his best to hold back his smile and looked at Luo Chenxi expressionlessly. Luo Chenxi hated that she could not find a hole to hide in on the spot. Oh! What was wrong with her earlier? Why did she have to draw this arrogant and narcissistic man? Yes, it was probably because she had been seeing him for the past few days that young Master Mu's figure appeared in her subconsciousness. Ahem, young Master Mu, you've really misunderstood the situation. It's a huge misunderstanding. This was just something I casually drew. Yes, because it's for a design, I definitely have to make the model look better. You're the most handsome man I know, so I subconsciously drew the model to look similar to you. This is all. A coincidence. Luo Chenxi tried her best to explain. Mu Yichen glanced at her. So you admit that you have a crush on me? Luo Chenxi was dumbfounded. What? When did I say that? You already said that you think I'm the most handsome man you know. If this isn't a crush, then what is? There's no need to explain. Any future explanation would come across as an attempted cover. Mu Yichen could not help but smile. Although this woman did not deserve to be the young mistress of the Mu family, seeing that she had such good taste, he would not mind her violating his portrait rights. Luo Chenxi was so angry that she wanted to punch his handsome face. Does this guy not understand human language? Like I said, this is just a coincidence, a coincidence. If someone is more handsome than you, I will draw him. It is definitely not you. Luo Chenxi emphasized. Hearing this, Mu Yichen's smile disappeared and his face turned cold. He snorted, bent down, and picked up the balls of paper from the ground. He opened them one by one. Coincidence. There are so many drawings of me. Is this a coincidence? Isn't that too much of a coincidence? Mu Yichen folded the drawings into a neat pile and waved it in front of Luo Chenxi. Luo Chenxi had been watching Mu Yichen pick up the drawings. Every time she saw one, her face would turn pale. Oh my God, she must have been possessed by something dirty when she was drawing the designs here. Every single one of them was Mu Yichen. There was even a nude one. The little woman bit her lip, speechless. Mu Yichen glanced at her arrogantly and stuffed the drawings into his pocket. When Luo Chenxi saw this, she immediately shouted, "Wait, where do you want to take my drawings? Those are mine. Give them back to me." Mu Yichen sneered. Didn't you just roll it into a ball of trash? That's still my trash. No, this is my portrait. Of course it's mine, Mu Yichen said matter-of-factly. How many times do I have to say this? This is not your picture, it's just, similar to you. Unfortunately, Mu Yichen did not listen to her explanation at all. Seeing that the man was about to leave, Luo Chenxi quickly chased after him. Hurry up and return the drawings to me. If Mu Yichen really took away the evidence of her crush, she would be too ashamed to face anyone in the future. Luo Chenxi was agile. She ran to Mu Yichen in a few steps and reached for his pocket. However, Mu Yichen's reaction was faster. He took out the drawings at lightning speed and raised it above his head. Chapter 63. Surprising Advances. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63. Surprising Advances. Luo Chenxi could only jump up and down. She jumped a few times, but she missed by just a little bit. She could not get the drawings. Luo Chenxi really wanted to chop off a part of Mu Yichen's long legs. She was already considered very tall among the girls. Many men were not as tall as her, but Mui Chen was a head taller than her. He was already feeling depressed, but Mui Chen's sneer rang in his ears. "Heh, short legs. Which eye of yours saw that my legs were short?" Luo Chenxi was furious. Her long legs were not inferior to professional models. When she was studying in Country Y, famous designers often advised her to change her career and to become a model. However, now, Mui Chen insinuated her for having short legs. So what if he was tall? Luo Chenxi was furious. She grabbed Mui Chen's neck and attempted to jump higher. She swore that she would get the drawings back and prove that she was not short-legged. Mui Chen's eyes lit up in amusement as he watched the little woman jumping up and down like a little white rabbit. However, he soon stopped laughing. The woman's soft body suddenly pressed against his body. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and her hair that smelled so good brushed against his face. Even, the pair of real white rabbits in front of her chest knocked into his bare chest. Mui Chen stopped breathing. Luo Chenxi continued to jump up, and every time she jumped, she would rub against his body forcefully. Mui Chen's eyes darkened and he felt himself stiffen. He gritted his teeth and hissed, "Enough. Stop jumping." Luo Chenxi did not realize that danger was approaching. Her eyes were fixed on the drawings above her head. She grabbed the man and jumped again. As expected, she jumped much higher than before. Luo Chenxi hugged Mui Chen even more tightly and jumped suddenly. Seeing that she was just short of touching the drawings, Mui Chen's hand suddenly relaxed. The drawings drifted down from the sky and landed on the ground. Luo Chenxi's face turned green. "Mui Chen, are you kidding?" Before she could finish, she felt something tighten around her waist. Mui Chen held her slender waist with one hand and held her wrists with the other. He raised them above his head, turned around, and pressed her against the wall, pressing his lips against hers. "Woo-woo." Luo Chenxi widened her eyes. She could not believe that she had been forced to kiss him again. Didn't they say that young Master Mu was not interested in women? Ever since she had met him, this man would make surprising advances at her, making it impossible for her to defend herself against him in time. Mui Chen held the little woman in his arms tightly, every cell in his body was aching to have her. Luo Chenxi felt dizzy from the kiss. She wanted to struggle out of his embrace, but she felt too weak to do so. After a long while, Mui Chen finally let go of her lips and kissed her sensitive ear. "Since you're bent on seducing me and I refuse to accept it, aren't you being too disrespectful?" When she heard the man's deep voice, Luo Chenxi regained some consciousness. She was horrified to find that Mui Chen was pressing her against the wall tightly. Their bodies were inevitably rubbing against each other. Her mind buzzed as she suddenly realized something was wrong. Just now, the two of them were also moving at the same pace, but she had taken the initiative to pounce on this man. No wonder Mui Chen suddenly became like this. "Mui Chen, stop, stop," Luo Chen wanted to cry but had no tears. She still wanted to struggle out of his embrace. Mui Chen moved his hands down, allowing her to lean closer to him. He whispered into her ear, "Do you feel it? It's too late." Chapter 64. Sweetness seeping into her heart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64. Sweetness seeping into her heart. Luo Chenxi's legs turned to jelly when she realized how tough the man was. Would she actually end up doing it with Mui Chen tonight? However, they were not a normal married couple at all. Mui Chen seemed to have sensed Luo Chenxi's hesitation. Without giving her time to think, he pinched her chin and kissed her again. He had been tortured by this little woman for the past 2 days. He refused to take another cold shower for the 3rd night because of her. His long and strong fingers lifted the large T-shirt she was wearing. Mui Chen, let go of me." At this moment, Luo Chenxi's expression suddenly changed. She frowned and pushed Mui Chen's chest with force. Mu Chen ignored her and kissed the woman in his arms even more passionately, trying to seduce her with his beauty. However, Luo Chenxi struggled even harder and her voice started to tremble. Mu Chen, let go of me. My stomach hurts, it really hurts. Let go of me, she sounded like she was crying. Mu Chen frowned. The moment he let go of her, Luo Chenxi squatted on the ground and covered her stomach with her hands. She looked like she was in pain. What's wrong? Why is your stomach hurting? Luo Chenxi bit her lips and did not say anything. Mu Chen saw the cold sweat on her forehead and a strange feeling surged within the depths of his heart. He felt a slight heartache. He bent down and carried Luo Chenxi in his arms, placing her on the bed. His warm hand pressed on her stomach, and the wrinkles on his brows deepened. What's going on? Is it really painful? I'll call the doctor. The little woman, who was usually full of energy and chatter, was suddenly in so much pain that she could not speak. Mu Chen was anxious. He picked up his phone and was about to call the family doctor. Luo Chenxi quickly held his hand and said, "Wait, there's no need to call the doctor. Yes, I'm probably just hungry." Mu Chen was stunned. Hungry? Luo Chenxi lowered her head under his sharp gaze and whispered, "I was too focused when I was drawing just now and forgot to eat. Furthermore, I have a weak stomach, so, don't tell me that you didn't eat lunch and dinner." Mu Chen recalled that Luo Chenxi had mentioned that she had been drawing here since morning, and his expression turned an even uglier. Luo Chenxi shrank her neck and said, "I think so. TSK, how can there be an idiot like you?" Mu Chen glared at her and said angrily. Luo Chenxi widened her eyes. She could not believe that Mu Chen was scolding her despite her situation. Even if he did not pity her, there was no need for him to scold her, right? Besides, she had not eaten. What did it have to do with Mu Chen? What right did he have to scold her? Sensing her gaze, Mu Chen's tone became even colder. Why? You're not happy with my reprimand. You were so fixated on drawing these lousy drawings that you didn't even remember to eat. If you're not an idiot, what are you? A big idiot. Luo Chenxi was already pale from the pain. Hearing this, her face turned even paler. You. What do you mean lousy drawings? Those are all my hard work. Then hold on to your drawings and suffer. The man scoffed with disdain. He stood up and left the bedroom. Luo Chenxi was so angry that she waved her fist in his direction. What a jerk. It must have been because the two of them were interrupted when they were making out earlier that he gave her the cold shoulder. She didn't ask for this stomach pain. Besides, they should not have slept together anyway. While Luo Chen cursed Mu Chen in her heart, she held her stomach and tried to get up from the bed. Her stomach was hurting from hunger. Even though she did not need to see a doctor, she could not just let it go like this. She had to find something that was easy to digest. Luo Chenxi endured the pain and planned to find some food in the kitchen downstairs. At that moment, the door was opened again. Luo Chenxin. Are you tired of living? Why don't you stay in bed? How dare you run around? You. Luo Chenxi looked up in shock and met Mu Chen's sullen face. Why did this man return? Mu Chen carried her up again and placed her back on the bed. Then, he stuffed a teacup into her hands. Take it. Drink some water first to ease your stomachache. I'll go get you something to eat. With that, he left. Luo Chenxi stared blankly at his silhouette until she could no longer see him. Then, she hugged the cup and took a sip. The water in the cup was actually sweet. It was carefully mixed with honey. Luo Chenxi pursed her lips. She could only feel the faint sweetness seeping into her heart. Chapter 65. Are you letting me eat that down there? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. Are you letting me eat that down there? She downed the cup of honey water in a jiffy. It could have just been in her head, but Luo Chenxi's stomach pain felt a lot better after that. She did as Mui Chen said and sat obediently on the bed for a short while, that was until she stopped being able to sit still. He's only gone to fetch some food, what's taking him so long? After a brief hesitation, she eventually got off the bed and ran downstairs to the kitchen in a pair of fluffy slippers. As she was about to enter the kitchen, she heard a little stir from within. Luo Chenxi was a little startled. She opened the kitchen door a little and peeked through the gap. It took only a glance to drive her into confusion. Absolutely unreal. Mui Chen is standing by the stove, and he's cooking. What was going on here? Had she opened the door the wrong way? Luo Chenxi's very first reaction was to shut the kitchen door and close her eyes. She took a deep breath, then reopened the door and abruptly opened her eyes. Mui Chen was still there. Neither did he vanish, nor did he turn into a woman. He really was cooking. Luo Chenxi's eyes widened. It was a truth that she had to accept no matter how surprised she was. Then again, can someone like young Master Mu, who has been raised with a silver spoon in his mouth, really cook? This place isn't going to turn into a disaster scene later, right? When Luo Chenxi took a closer look, she quickly came to realize that she was definitely worrying too much. Young Master Mu knew his way around the kitchen. He handled everything masterfully, from preparing the ingredients, washing and cutting the vegetables, seasoning the wok with oil to stir. Frying. She could tell that he could cook pretty well. At first, Luo Chenxi was only curious about how well he could cook, but she slowly became drawn towards the man as she looked. She was no stranger to the sight of a man in a kitchen, but towards the sight of a man as attractive as Mui Chen. That was a first. Considering that those large hands were usually signing off important documents with a pen, having a spatula wielded in them not only did not feel out of place, but also gave the man a naturally homey vibe. His extraordinarily handsome face from the side was expressionless as always, but it seemed much gentler when shrouded by the gradually rising smoke from the stove. As Luo Chenxi's gaze gradually shifted downwards, she could not help but blush a little. Mui Chen came to the kitchen without even wearing a shirt. Totally shameless. Besides, isn't he afraid of catching a cold? Luo Chenxi muttered softly, but her eyes did not blink as she stared at the smooth muscles on Mui Chen's back. How could she overlook such a beautiful sight? Why did he have to be naked anyway? Perhaps she was gazing too eagerly. Mui Chen suddenly stopped what he was doing and turned his head. When he saw the little woman leaning on the kitchen door and looking in curiously, he frowned. Didn't I ask you to stay in the room and wait for me? You never came back, so seeing the man's face darken, Luo Chenxi quick-wittedly steered the topic away. Are you letting me eat that down there? She vaguely noticed Mui Chen had a pot of water boiled and threw a handful of noodles into it. As the words came out of her mouth, the kitchen suddenly fell into a strange silence. Luo Chenxi looked at Mui Chen in confusion as the corners of his lips gradually rose into a smirk. That was pretty bold of you. Since you want it that badly, why didn't you just ask? It's a little embarrassing for me to do this in the kitchen though. Luo Chenxi blankly blinked her eyes as she briefly fell into a trance. Finally, she realized the confusion caused by her words when she saw Mui Chen reach out to grab his belt on his waist as he prepared to undo it. An abrupt hum rang through her head, and she felt her entire face burning. Chapter 66. Good work, hubby. Thank you. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 66. Good work, hubby. Thank you. That was a perfectly normal sentence, but Mui Chen took it the complete wrong way. Luo Chenxi furiously glared at him. You dirty-minded hooligan. Then, she turned around and ran out of the kitchen without looking back. The sound of the man chuckling could be heard from her back, which made Luo Chenxi blush more furiously. She couldn't help but cover her ears. Pervert, absolute pervert. I can't believe he's dishing out his dirty thoughts so nonchalantly. She never knew Mu Yichen was such a huge pervert from his ascetic and composed look. Luo Chenxi ran back to the bedroom on the second floor and sat on the bed. The scene she saw back in the kitchen flashed in her mind again. The cold and handsome son of nobility looked so composed and graceful even though he was cooking in the kitchen. She had seen Mu Yichen in many situations before, times when he drove a luxurious sports car in a suit, when he lazily sat down on the couch as he pulled his shirt collar open, when he coldly said, "I do," in the wedding, and when he lost control in bed. Even then, not one Mu Yichen from any of those times could compare to the one making noodles for her in the kitchen while being half naked. Seeing him like this, Luo Chenxi suddenly felt that the ever-so-proud young Master Mu as told by many might not be that much different from her after all. Luo Chenxi sat cross-legged on the bed while resting her chin on her hand. After a brief moment of thought, her eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. I've got it. She jumped off the bed and bent down to pick up her laptop and drawing tablet from the floor. Then instantly picked up the pace and started drawing. The scene of Mu Yichen back in the kitchen gave her the inspiration she needed for her design approach. A stay.at. Home man can also be really sexy. Let's use this as the design theme for the time being. Luo Chenxi nodded in satisfaction. She outlined a simple draft as her pen swished through the tablet. Just as she tried to figure out how to add the details, the man's angry voice was suddenly heard at the back of her head. Luo Chenxin, does your stomach not hurt anymore? Or were you lying to me on purpose back there? I can't believe you came back to draw again. Luo Chenxi, who was still immersed in her drawing, did not recognize the voice of the person talking at all. She waved her hand impatiently and tried to tell him off, "Don't bother me. Can't you see that I'm busy? Go play by yourself elsewhere." Mu Yichen's face turned even darker as he heard what she said. He tried so hard to cook her noodles in the kitchen, yet the next thing he knew was his wife vanishing on him as he turned around. Thus, the man went upstairs to take a look. This woman had started drawing again. Is this design poisonous or what? Does she value it more than her husband in her heart? What was more, he came right up and caught her red-handed, yet she felt not the slightest hint of guilt and even had the audacity to tell him off. Also, what's the deal with that hand wave in the end? It felt like she was shooing me away like a fly. You are asking me to go play by myself. Mu Yichen pinched and lifted her chin, forcing her to look him straight in the eye. Hey, I told you not to bother. Halfway through her sentence, Luo Chenxi's eyes met with Mu Yichen's handsome face. After a brief trance, her impatient expression turned into a face of flattery. Young Master Mu, it's you, so, you think I'm annoying? The man questioned coldly. Luo Chenxi shook her head like a rattle drum. No, you heard it wrong. How would I dare to think that? What I meant was, well, good work hubby, thank you. Chapter 67. Big Brother is super eager. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Big Brother is super eager. Hearing Luo Chenxi blurt out, "Hubby," Mu Yichen was a little taken aback. He never expected Luo Chenxi to utter such a word when she was anxious. Hearing her say it with a soft and sweet voice made his heart skip beat. Luo Chenxi realized that she had a slip of her tongue as soon as she spoke. She was so upset by her slip up she could ram herself dead with the bedpost. She did not know why, but every time she saw Mu Yichen's handsome face, her brain would fry itself and she would end up making a fool out of herself in front of him. This was bad, judging by Mu Yichen's usual attitude towards her. He would be extremely furious after hearing her call him hubby. He was probably going to warn her again to stop having these improper thoughts. She totally asked for it. Luo Chenxi bit her lips as she anticipated Mu Yichen's sarcastic remarks. However, Mu Yichen only gave her a deep gaze for a brief moment before straightening up and said, "Come down and eat." There was absolutely no way to tell what he was thinking from his steady tone. After a short pause, Luo Chenxi looked down at the unfinished design in her hands, then quickly shook her head and said, "I don't have time for food, I have to finish this drawing." It wasn't easy for me to finally get the inspiration for this. I can't. Before she could finish, she felt a sudden tightness wrapping around her waist, then her world started spinning all over the place. When she came to her senses, she realized Mu Yichen was straight up carrying her on his shoulder. Coincidentally, her ribs were pressed against the man's shoulder muscles, making her vision go black from the pain. She could not take it and started struggling and patted on his shoulders with all her strength. "Mu Yichen. What are you doing? Put me down. Hurry up, put me down." Mu Yichen shot a cold gaze at her. "You dare refuse to eat when you have gastric, you must have grown tired of living. What's going to happen if you get admitted to the hospital after only being married into the Mu family for a few days? If this gets out, people might think it's domestic abuse, there's no way I'm taking the blame for that." Thanks to this posture, Luo Chenxi had no choice but to rest her head on his shoulder face down, after which her face turned red from it. "Just put me down. I'll go downstairs to eat with you, okay? I think it's better if I take you down myself. Mu Yichen, let me down. I'm warning you, I'm going to bite you if you don't." Luo Chenxi gritted her teeth as she protested. She could no longer control the volume of her voice. At this moment, a loud gasp was heard from somewhere nearby. Mu Yichen stopped in his tracks and turned around. He frowned. Mu Yiling stood dumbfounded at the doorstep of his own bedroom. He looked at his brother, who was half naked, then his sister Law, who was being carried on his shoulder. A spark of excitement gradually flashed across his eyes. That's a massive chunk of gossip right there. Who would have thought that the cold brother who had never batted an eye at women to be this eager, to flirt around on the walkway with his sister Law without a care for her struggle, and was even forcefully carrying her back to the room to do naughty stuff. And he's already half naked. Oh dear, what a beast. Mu Yichen frowned at the sight of his brother standing still without moving an inch. "What are you doing out here in the middle of the night?" Mu Yiling came back to his senses and frantically retorted, I get it. It's the middle of the night, you are the only ones allowed to get out here and get on with things, I shouldn't have been a light bulb. But no worries, big brother, I only came out here to get some food because I am hungry. Do continue, go on, don't worry about me. As he said so, he sprinted downstairs in an instant and escaped into the kitchen. He was afraid of getting chopped into pieces by his big brother in case he flew into a rage out of shame. Luo Chenxi did not expect to be seen in such a shameful state. She became more vexed and simply pretended to be an ostrich and buried her head in Mu Yichen's shoulder. Mu Yichen too felt a little awkward and cleared his throat. Ahem, that's just how Yiling is, just let him be. Wow, egg noodles with shredded meat. And it's still hot. Did Auntie Lu specially make this for me because she knew I'll be up for the night? I'm so touched. Mu Yiling's joyful voice was heard from the kitchen. Chapter 68. Getting stuffed full from the sight of the love birds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68. Getting stuffed full from the sight of the love birds. Mu Yichen's face darkened at once. He put Luo Chenxi down and strode downstairs into the kitchen. Mu Yiling had already lifted the lid of the pot and was almost drooling from looking at it. He knew for sure that it must be delicious from the fragrance alone. It really was his lucky day. With a pair of chopsticks in his hand, it almost reached into the pot. Right this moment. Put down the chopsticks. This isn't for you. Mu Yichen's cold voice came from the back and gave him a fright. His hand trembled and the chopsticks fell to the ground. As he turned around and saw his big brother standing by the door with a gloomy face, Mu Yiling could not help but protest. Big brother, what's with you scaring me like that? You might just scare me to death. Mu Yi-chen shot a cold gaze at him. You're already so fat, why are you still eating? Go back to your room, scram. Mu Yiling's eyes widened as he heard the word fat and unhappily talked back, Big brother, how am I fat? Although I haven't got those packs like you have, my figure's still very standard, okay? I'm not fat, it's just my flesh expanding from the heat thanks to the hot weather. Besides, I came to the kitchen because I'm being considerate of you too. Big brother, why don't you just hurry up and bring sister back to her room? Don't tell me, you are even eyeing my food as well. Don't even think about it. Mu Yiling hugged the pot with both hands, as if he had sworn to live and die with the noodles. The veins on Mu Yi-chen's forehead throbbed as he really felt like tossing his tactless younger brother out of the villa. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly felt someone poking his arm. He turned around and saw Luo Chenxi poked her head at the door. I think there's actually plenty of noodles in there. I don't think I can eat that much either. Why don't we share some of them with second young master? She suggested softly. Upon hearing this, Mu Yi-chen's gaze immediately turned cold and glared at her. She could not help but feel a little guilty. What was going on? Did she say something wrong? At this moment, Mu Yiling seemed to have picked up on something as he observed the interaction between the two. He said in surprise, "Oh, sister, are these the noodles you prepared for Big brother? No wonder he couldn't bear to let me eat them." Ha! Luo Chenxi looked at him in confusion and shook her head. "No, I didn't cook this, your big brother did. I forgot about dinner, so he was afraid that I'd get hungry." Mu Yiling swiftly placed the pot back to where it was before Luo Chenxi could finish, then quickly backed away and put a distance from the two. Completely acting as if the pot was housing a ticking time bomb instead of fragrant noodles. "Big brother, why didn't you say so earlier? Sister, please enjoy your meal. I'll leave at once." Oh my god, his big brother actually knew how to cook. Even he had no idea his big brother could cook. So, the truth was his brother came to the kitchen to cook in the middle of the night after his wife asked for food. He was lucky for being just slow enough to not end up eating the noodles, or he would be as good as a dead man. Second young master, wait, I really can't finish this. Luo Chenxi wanted to say more, but Mu Yiling had already fled the kitchen at a speed quicker than a hare. She turned to look at Mu Yi-chen in confusion. What's going on? Isn't second young master hungry? Why did he leave without eating anything? Mu Yi-chen glanced at the direction in which his brother fled with a blank face. At least that brat is tactful enough. Noel Dem. He picked up the noodles and walked towards the dining room. Who knows? Maybe he stopped feeling hungry all of a sudden. Don't just stand there, come here. Second young master Mu, who left but came back to peep from behind the door. Of course he wasn't hungry anymore. That's all thanks to getting stuffed full from the sight of these love birds. Chapter 69. The idea of perfect Prince Charming was an absolute misunderstanding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. The idea of perfect Prince Charming was an absolute misunderstanding. Luo Chenxi obediently followed behind the tall man as they walked to the dining room and sat down. Mu Yi-chen stuck a pair of chopsticks into her hand and sternly ordered, "Eat." Luo Chenxi had already been famished since the start, now there was finally something for her to eat. The best part was the food was pleasantly easy on the nose. She started gulping down the noodles straight from the pot without even using a bowl. Ouch! It's hot. As she got burnt from the first bite, all she did was stuck out her reddened tongue and blew a little air around it before digging in again. Mu Yi-chen frowned as he watched from the side. Take it slow, no one's going to snatch your food away. You might get bloated if you eat so quickly. Luo Chenxi started paying a little more attention to her meal etiquette, but she still ate pretty quickly and finished her food in no time. It tastes so good. Young Master Mu, you really are a genius. you can even cook so well. Luo Chenxi rubbed her slightly bulging belly as she looked at Mu Yichen with sparkling eyes filled with admiration. What a man Mu Yichen is, capable of anything and absolutely perfect. The corner of Mu Yichen's lips rose ever so slightly, but his face quickly reverted to its usual cold look as he snorted, "Do you think everyone is as dumb as you, you?" Luo Chenxi nearly pounced back up from the man angering her. "I'm taking back what I just said, the idea I had of the perfect man is just a huge misunderstanding." That foul mouth of Mu Yichen's was enough to negate all his good points. However, seeing as she had eaten the noodles that he made, Luo Chenxi decided to let him off. "Are you finished? Hurry up and get upstairs to rest if you are, it's already 1 o'clock. Mu Yichen urged. Luo Chenxi put down the cutlery and followed him back to the master bedroom. After entering the room, she immediately looked toward her laptop as she thought, how can I possibly fall asleep without finishing the drawings? Mu Yichen said to her in a cold tone, "Touch that thing one more time and you are not getting any sleep tonight." He tightened his big hands on the woman's waist. A burning sensation rose from where he touched, and Luo Chenxi couldn't help but shudder. She dared not say anything else and hurriedly got on the bed and used the blanket to wrap herself up like a cocoon. "You've still got to go to work tomorrow. Hurry up and go to sleep, good night." Mu Yichen's eyes dimmed when he saw the woman's guarded attitude, but did not say anything else. The next morning, there was once again no one by Luo Chenxi's side when she woke up. She was surprised when she turned to the clock. She could usually stay up for 3 days in a row without a wink of sleep when she got caught up in a situation with an unfinished drawing, but she actually fell asleep so quickly last night, next to such a dangerous man. The laptop and drawing tablet that were on the floor were picked up and placed on the bedside table, but the drafts that were scattered all over the floor had vanished. She was not sure if Mu Yichen had taken them away for real. Luo Chenxi quickly washed up and went downstairs. The 3 siblings of the Mu family and the little dumpling were all there. Mu Yichen was having breakfast with his usual graceful etiquette. He faintly glanced at Luo Chenxi as she appeared. Mu Yiling on the other hand, had eyes brimming with words of mockery. If it were not for his big brother's presence, he would have lost it and started teasing her. TSK, does someone think that she deserves to be pampered just because she married into the Mu family? It's one thing to do nothing in the house, but you're also always the last one to arrive for breakfast every day. Who do you think you are? Mu Weiwei, displeased with her as usual, mocked her the moment they met. Luo Chenxi was used to hearing these words. She was not angry at all. Instead, she continued to argue with her as usual while feeding the little dumpling. When the little girl had finished her breakfast, Luo Chenxi lifted her up and sent her to the kindergarten. After sending Tang Tang off, she suddenly remembered something and said to old Lu who was seated at the driver's seat, "Uncle Lu, there's something that I need to take care of. You can drop me off at the intersection up ahead." Old Lu answered, "Young madam, where are you headed? Please let me take you there. Young Master Mu has instructed me earlier this morning to escort you wherever you wish to go from now on." Chapter 70. If you can't afford it, don't touch it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. If you can't afford it, don't touch it. Luo Chenxi was a little surprised, but after giving it some thought, she decided that it was all right. Even if Mu Yichen did not approve of her as a wife, the Mu family would be the one losing face if the young madam was seen taking public transportations for her daily outing and activities. "All right then, I'd like to go to the textile market at Jiangbei Road. It's right by the docks, pretty easy to find." When they arrived, Luo Chenxi set for old Lu to pick her up at 5 o'clock, then entered the market on her own. This was the largest textile market in T-City. People could buy all kinds of fabrics and accessories of different grades. She had confirmed 5 sets of design for women clothing along with a few sets for men with designs that had also started to take shape, that brought her here to check out the market today. For her, the biggest challenge in the entire design process was the lack of funds. If only she could spend less on the fabrics that cost the most, she would have saved a ton. Luo Chenxi started shopping from the easternmost part of the market and constantly checked out all the shops as she headed west. The more she looked, the more she felt like shaking her head. The cheap fabrics that were within her budget were all of very poor quality. There was no way they could bring out the effects of her design. As for the slightly better ones, the price shot up several folds. She only had a little more than 10,000 yuan at hand, and that was not even enough to bear the cost for 10 sets of clothing. The worst part was that there was not one fabric in the market that could fully meet her desired standards even if she paid no heed to the prices. This made Luo Chenxi very frustrated. The fabrics played a big role in accentuating the final effects of the end product, so it was not something she could afford to be careless with. As she reached the eastern end of the market, Luo Chenxi suddenly stopped to look at the luxuriously decorated storefront before her. This was the only fabric shop left, and it was the most luxurious one in the entirety of T-City. She had heard of this shop a long time ago and knew that the owner specially purchased the fabrics from all over the world. These goods had always been directly supplied to top-tier corporates like the SL Corporation. Aside from large corporations, only a few other well-known designers who designed luxurious collections could afford them. With the money that she had, she could probably only afford a piece of cloth the size of a handkerchief. Screw it, I'll head in and take a look anyway. Luo Chenxi strode into the shop and immediately knew she came to the right place. As expected, the shop was luxurious for a reason. All the fabrics displayed were no ordinary goods, but were instead of top-tier quality. Each and every one of them had their own unique textures and patterns that were rarely seen in the market. Compared to the fabrics in this shop, the ones out there were as good as trash. However, Luo Chenxi immediately felt dispirited as soon as she saw the price tags. She had totally overestimated her wealth back there. It turned out she could not even afford a single piece of handkerchief from this shop. However, these fabrics were all extremely beautiful, especially the one in aquamarine. From the looks of it, it perfectly matched her design and she wanted to know how it felt to the touch. "Miss, you've been poking around our shop all day, are you even planning to buy anything? If you're not going to buy anything, please stop touching as you please." A sudden frustrated voice from the back disrupted Luo Chenxi's train of thought. "Our goods here all cost a fortune. Any one of these could easily cost more than a typical branded garment. Stop poking around if you can't afford them. Please leave at once. These are all works of art, you can't afford to pay for them if they are damaged." Hearing those words, Luo Chenxi frowned. She wanted to leave. However, this was the only shop that had the fabric that suited her tastes.